So I wanted to make this video to sort of highlight the net neutrality debate and defend my position in supporting net neutrality and the Title II regulations put on ISPs. So I slammed together this PowerPoint and wrote a little blurb. So let's get on with it. So in order to fully understand net neutrality, you have to understand how ISPs work. So what this is a small chart. I didn't make this chart. I got it off Google. So basically, you're right here. You're the internet users. You connect to a Tier 3 ISP. This is Verizon, Comcast, companies like that, Time Warner. These are your ISPs, the Tier 3 ISPs. From there, they connect to either Tier 1 or Tier 2 ISPs. So your ISP has an ISP. So I made this chart in Paint, and what it's supposed to do is, there's a lot of misconceptions of what net neutrality is, and this is what net neutrality is. This is how the internet works. This is what net neutrality is. So here is your ISP, right here, Tier 3 ISP. Here's a 1080p Netflix movie stream around 10 megabits per second. Okay, your 50 megabits connection works the same for all services. So whether you're on Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, if you have 50 megabits connection, 50 megabit per second connection, that's what you're going to get. It doesn't matter what service you use. I'm going to address sort of the Netflix data cap argument. I think it's sort of dumb. Netflix uses a lot of data, yes, but a 1080p Netflix movie stream is around 10 megabits per second. What are you paying for again? 50. So what the problem is, this connection right here, your connection your Tier 3 ISP has with Cogent, or whatever your ISP's Tier 1 ISP is. Cogent's, a big company. They do a lot of that kind of stuff. And so it's most likely Cogent. And so your ISP's connection is getting saturated. So tell me how that's my problem over here. I'm paying for 50. Your connection is getting saturated, so you're throttling me. That's not my problem. Netflix paid for their bandwidth. They pay for a plethora of bandwidth to Cogent. Your ISP needs to improve their connection in order to keep up their end of the bargain. That's just how it works. I also wanted to, address some of this. It's only been around since 2015. There's a plethora of examples. Vonage was bottlenecked by Madison Communications. BitTorrent has been blocked. AT&T limited FaceTime, and the FCC, they did a lot of things. They fined. They told them to stop, and they can't really effectively do it because they're not fully given the power under the current law. Title II only allowed for so much. I really don't think, and even before Title II, there wasn't a lot of ways the FCC could really file suit against these companies. But even before 2015, this was a principle, since the dial-up days, that every packet had to be treated equally. So I just think it's a very non-historical and just silly argument to make when people say it's only been around since 2015. That particular regulation and that verbiage has only been around since 2015, but we've had this since the dawn of the internet. Furthermore, the way we use the internet is changing. We're not logging in to check our email. We're streaming on everything. Our phones, our tablets, our computers, our TVs, everything is streaming. We're using a lot more bandwidth than we would have, 5-10 years ago. And so these ISPs have to up their what they're offering, and I think that's part of the problem. Netflix was bottlenecked. A big one I didn't put on here was Netflix being bottlenecked by Verizon and Time Warner, and Netflix had to pay. I think it set a bad precedent. I don't think they should have done that. I think in a lot of ways it should have been kept. Netflix should have filed suit in some way. There had been precedents before, like the Madison River Communications blocking access to Vonage. I think Netflix shouldn't have just caved like it did. It should have filed suit. So there's a plethora of consequences if it's gone, and in this case it's gone, but it's really not gone permanently because there's a lot of politics behind how it will reinstate itself and how it will come back and whatnot. So there's going to be obviously an increase in overall cost as they could charge for high bandwidth services and whatnot. And the underlying principle of net neutrality, which all packets have to be treated equally, is gone. So they're going to create fast lanes and slow lanes, obviously. And this will this will gain them more money by either charging the consumer or charging the service, the internet service itself, like like they did with Netflix. So it'll definitely further monopolize the ISP industry. There's no doubt in my mind. Furthermore, it will create less competition on the internet service market and between ISP services and online services that compete with the ISP's other services. So think about it. How could YouTube's future competitor pay for the fast lane? It can't. It creates a huge barrier to entry for high bandwidth services that compete with Netflix, Hulu, YouTube. So you're creating an uneven playing field that's skewed all the way for the big guys. I just don't think that's not fair. That's not how you create a marketplace that's conducive to growth or a fair market. That's just not how you do it. So not only are you skewing the market towards bigger companies like Google, Facebook, whoever, you make it harder for their entry level competitors to get in the game against these companies. You're making YouTube, YouTube, Hulu, Netflix less competitive with ISP services that are already dying. ISPs